Welcome back, tributes, to episode 75 of Into the Arena. I can't believe we're saying that. Oh my goodness. I'm Holly,
I'm Emily.
and we have seen the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes movie.
Ah.
We're back. Oh my gosh. So we are back. We don't have any announcements. This is like I was talking to Emily before we started recording, and it's like, how do we even record this episode? Because we're in a whole new era of recording, at least for us, because now we're transitioning over into a post-ballad movie world. So there's nothing really like there's nothing to look forward to. I don't know. Here we are. So
You
I
guys,
don't
we
know.
have a play next year
We
to
have a
look forward
play.
to. So there is that. I'm very grateful in that aspect. And we have
Mhm.
so many episodes where we can talk about the movie, compare it to the other movies, talk about favorite scenes, all
Yeah.
sorts of things. The DVD will come out. Like there's gonna be stuff, but
Yeah.
it is very different.
So we're entering this new era of Into the Arena, which I think is really exciting because I feel like not only for us, but for Tribute Talk as well, we have completely changed perspectives on, I feel like, the book and the movie, because like we were talking before this, and our friends are loving the movie so much, like in our group chat right now, and we have people who have seen it already 7 or 8 times. So people are seeing this movie, loving this movie, and I feel like I'm really excited to just enter this new era where we're getting to compare
Mhm.
things. And like we're also in this Hunger Games renaissance. I feel like TikTok is blowing up with Hunger Games. I'm like loving it. So, what year are we in? Are we actually in
Mm.
2023? Like
I love it. So the movie is out. You could just go out and watch it and we can
yeah.
discuss all about it. But I feel like we do want to talk a little bit about the 2 weeks we had leading up to the movie coming out because our last episode was where I'm going to Berlin, Holly and I are going to LA. All this cool stuff is happening. So do we want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, I feel like you should start out by talking about it because Emily kind of did like a Hunger Games world tour, I guess we could
I
call it.
kind of did.
You were kind of like a groupie for the Hunger Games, and I
I
loved it so
was.
much.
I was just
So,
living out all my dreams.
and you're also like kind of low-key famous on TikTok and Instagram now because of the reel that you made. I feel like you said it's so worth going to Germany just for this one reel that you made
I did.
because
I made a reel of going to the filming locations in Berlin. I wore an
so
Academy
cool.
cosplay that I had bought just online from a cosplay store and put a little reel together, and that was super, super fun. I did go to the premiere. I got there on a Saturday on the 4th, and then on the 5th, I went with some fellow Hunger Games content creators to the premiere, which was very small. I think in my head, I thought it was going to be the world premiere, but I think the world premiere actually ended up being the next premiere in London. That one was kind of all decked out. They pulled out all the stops for that. It was pretty small in Berlin, but I mean, it was fine because I was planning on going to Berlin anyway. It really wasn't about the premiere for me. It was seeing the filming locations and hanging out with friends and stuff. But yeah, that was my first experience seeing the movie. I didn't really get cast interactions at that premiere. But I got to take some pictures on the carpet, which was fun. And I was really proud of my gold ensemble that I
Stunning.
wore that was very vintage 40s, 50s kind of inspired. So that was super fun. And I got to see the film, which was cool. The cast also spoke. They went down to the front. So Josh and Rachel
Cool.
and Tom were all there, and Francis and Uli, the production designer, and they answered some questions at the beginning, which was really cool. It's just always great to hear Francis and the cast speak about the film, and the cast especially because they had just gotten the interim agreement, so it was one of the first times that we really heard them speak about the film.
Yeah. I just want to say, like, it kind of seemed like everything ended up like a perfect box with a perfect little bow on top. I feel like we got so fortunate about the interim agreement, and then SAG reached their final agreement with
Hmm.
the studios. So at the perfect time, the movie. We've gotten amazing cast interviews. I've been spending my time watching like behind the scenes interviews. Those have been so fun. Or just like the fun like Vogue or BuzzFeed videos are so fun. But I wanted to ask you about your adventures in Berlin. What was like the coolest like set location that you got to see that took your breath away? Was there any moment that you felt like I'm in the movie right now?
Well, the first thing we ended up seeing that was just really cool, we were on a bus and going somewhere else, but we passed by the museum that is the Academy in the
Mm.
movie. And so that was kind of like a little pinch me moment. So
Mhm.
that was really cool. My favorite set to go to was the Academy classroom. That was the one where going into that room and sitting there, it is so close to what you see in the film. It just feels real. I just sat down in the same spot that Corio and Sejanus are sitting in the movie
So
and just
cool.
vibed. It was
Just
great.
vibes.
It was so cool. There's a couple of little changes that they made. They put that middle section in that doesn't actually exist, where High Bottom has his desk. And then they covered like a couple of things in the movie, but for the most part, it just feels like being in the Academy classroom. And then I was wearing the Academy cosplay, and it was just so cool. I could have sat there for
So cool.
hours.
Yes, so cool. I was just living to see you and our friends in Berlin get to have that experience. And then you were crazy, crazy because then you flew from Berlin all the way to LA, which is where I joined you on the leg of the trip.
Yes.
And that was my first red carpet experience. That was, I mean, not even, that was my first premiere experience. I've talked about being a fan kind of like behind the screen for the first four movies. And so to kind of be like there, I know it was not in a way that we'd ever been. I think it was like a once in a lifetime experience. So it was really
Mhm.
awesome. But yeah, that's where we got to go. So we were in LA and it was the 13th, Monday the 13th of November was the LA premiere. And that was so surreal. So we kind of
That
just,
was a fun day because we had a
yeah,
whole day kind of planned of things. They kind of gave us our own little prep team. They
which is so
booked
cool.
appointments for us at the dry bar, so we like got our hair done and everything, which was super fun. They took us around to the different promotional displays in the area. So there was an artist, I don't remember their name, but they had painted a mural, that one of all the tributes like reaching, that's like the propaganda poster of the 10th Hunger Games, and it said enjoy the show on it, which was
Ah,
really cool, taking pictures there. And I mean, we even went around and took pictures at the bus stops that had the posters up, and the propaganda posters, the propaganda character posters around the city. So that was really cool.
yeah, I think that was like probably my favorite part was just being with other fans. Like, shout out to all our friends who were there. Just like instead of, doing tourist attraction things, like we were doing our own Hunger Games tourist attraction things. Like we were being crazies walking around bus stop to bus stop taking pictures.
In our cardigans,
It was
in
so
full
awesome.
Hunger Games gear. It was great.
Yes. So seriously, like just such an amazing time. And then that night we were so fortunate enough to not only go to the premiere where we got to like walk on the actual red carpet, which you can find our content from that on our Instagram and TikTok and our Facebook, I believe, as well. But you can see those photos. And then afterwards, we went into like a fan area. We met a few actors. We got to meet Suzanne Collins, though. I feel like
Suzanne
that was
Collins, yeah,
all I
that was the
needed.
moment. She was the first person that we interacted with, which was just
Mhm.
really cool. It put us on this great high, and I was happy for the rest of the night, to be honest. Like nothing
Yes.
else mattered except the fact that we got to see Suzanne, and she signed both of our books, and then I had written her a letter
Yes.
like the night before and that morning. I was stressing about finishing it, and I was kind of like, do I even need to do this? Like, I'm probably not going to get an opportunity to actually give this to her, but I
You
did,
did.
and I was so happy I did it. just giving her that letter was so cool. It was a
It was
surreal
so
moment.
cool. It was such a cool moment, I think, to see, especially you working so hard. Like Emily, the type A, came out and was writing everything down and spending so much time and effort to like write this letter. Because I mean, like we all know Suzanne is just like our our God. We're like, if we could say anything to Suzanne. So I'm so happy that you got the opportunity to write her that letter and give her that letter. And so, I mean, hopefully she like, please, Suzanne, read Emily's letter because that was just
I'm
such a
sure
cool thing,
she's read it. Yeah.
which is so crazy to think about. And then we got to see some of the cast. So some of the cast kind of went around. It was different areas of where we were located. So we got to see a few people. We got to see Peter came our way, Jason,
Mhm.
Hunter, Jacqueline Emerson was there, which was really cool. She came
Mhm.
over to our side. I mean, obviously Suzanne. And then on the other side, it was kind of where like Tom and Josh kind of went around to everyone. Josh was amazing, but then Rachel was over there and it was really cool and to just to see
Yeah.
everyone.
I feel like I didn't really get interactions with the trio,
Yeah.
but it's okay.
While we were sitting down to watch the movie, they had everyone come up and speak. And I think for me, I loved hearing Rachel talk about Lucy Gray and her choosing when
Mm.
to sing and when to speak and her being that strong female figure. I think that was like my favorite moment from hearing from any of the cast or crew. So that was
Mhm.
really cool.
Yeah, being in their presence, super cool. They were pretty close because we were kind of close to the screen too, but
Hmm.
it made us kind of close to the cast. There was a little moment that I posted, but when they were walking off to the side, Suzanne kind of ran up a little bit to Rachel and like put her arm around her, gave her a hug, and then they were just kind of like talking as they walked off, which I just love seeing Suzanne and her live action Lucy Gray together. I loved it.
Hmm.
All of the cast actually left. They didn't watch the movie, which I mean, understandable because they've probably seen it so many times, but Suzanne went back into the audience and sat in her seat. So she was
Ah.
sitting there watching the movie with us, which was so fun. I just love that she loves the movie that much that she wants to sit and watch it with an audience.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I think Suzanne was just like the most humbling person to be around, but like she was also just so caring and kind. Like when she was signing our book, she was like, I never got the opportunity to go on tour because of COVID. So like I never got to sign these books for you guys. So these are some of the first books I'm getting to sign. It was like really, really sweet and awesome. Like she was so like grateful to be there. So to like
Hmm.
be watching with the queen herself. Like I was just like
I know.
trying to react
Yeah.
so she knew that we loved
When I
it.
gave her my letter, she was so like sweet,
Hmm.
like so grateful, like taking it. I think she said thank you several times. I was just like,
Yeah,
I
it
love
was
you.
so
All my
sweet.
letter says is thank you in it. I just didn't know what else to say other than like,
Yeah.
here is all the good things that have happened in my life because of you and these books that you wrote. And thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Like that's what my
Hmm.
letter said.
Yeah. No, it was just oh, I don't know what do you even say to her, but it was everyone was so 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 sweet. And then afterwards, we watched the movie, went to the after party, which was at the Hollywood
Hmm.
Roosevelt. That was so cool.
That was fun.
We had amazing interactions, especially with Ashley. Shout out to Ashley who plays Clemencia.
She's so
Oh my
cool.
God.
She's so sweet.
We literally came to the party. We were a little timid. Like, I mean, I was timid and
And she was like one of the first interactions with like anybody, like cast or whoever. Like we walked in there, we went to the bathroom, and then we came out of the
yeah.
bathroom, and it was like, "Hey, there's Ashley."
Yes, and she walked up to us and she's like, "Get your books out. Like people want to sign these. Like you guys look beautiful. We're so grateful to have you here." Like I was just like, "Thank you so much." So like Ashley was so incredible. Everyone was so incredible who we got to interact with that night. I just kind of like blacked out to be honest, like
Yeah,
mentally because
you
so
got to
much was
talk about your
happening.
interactions because you
Ah,
talked to Tom and you talked to Rachel.
I
I
had
kind
a
of was like
little
there, but like not really.
I think it was a little liquid courage, and I think it was a little bit of Emily being like, "Go, go, go." And so I had brought a friendship bracelet I made that said Cubby for Rachel, and that was like my goal. I had told everyone like my goal is to meet Rachel. Like I need to see Rachel. But before that, we had seen kind of Tom lingering around. He was
He
hanging
was
out in his
walking
area.
around.
I
We
was
kept
like,
trying to,
"Oh."
like, get in there a little bit, like, at an appropriate, respectful
Yes.
time, and that's why it was hard to get in there because we didn't want to be annoying. We didn't wanna be
Mhm.
disrespectful in any way, so we were waiting for an opportunity that felt right.
Yeah, and obviously he was like the man of the hour, so everyone was
Yeah.
going up to him left and right. But there was a moment where I do remember this moment. I walked up to him and I remember what I said. I said, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but we are huge fans. I like was like gesturing to Emily and I'm like, we're huge fans. You did amazing as Snow and we're so grateful. So congratulations on this. And he was like, thank you. And like gave me like the hands together, was so grateful. Like I know it was, like, not much of a moment, but he was so sincere, he could have brushed me off, like, but he seriously took the time to, like, listen to me and was so grateful. So, I mean, Tom is so sweet, Ashley's so sweet. I mean, people we interacted with were so sweet. And then later in the night, I got an awesome moment. I think one moment I wanna talk about first was Rachel and Hunter had their, like, couches. This will be, like, a core memory for me forever. They had their couches kind of back to back in the after party, and they were jamming out to Green Light by Lorde, and I think that was just, like, a moment for me because I was just like, "It's so cute," like, just to see them having fun, and Josh was there, so sweet, and then right after that, I kinda got the courage and went up to Rachel and I was like I told her, like, "Things have been hard, but I know things have been hard for me, but things have been hard for her just as much this past year," and I kind of blacked out what I said, but I gave her my bracelet, and then I actually have a Lucy Gray tattoo that just says Lucy Gray in the text, and I showed her that, and she grabbed my arm and turned to Josh and was like, "Josh, look at this tattoo, like,
She was
this is so
so
cool."
cute.
It was so cute. She's like, "Is this real? Is this real?" And gave her the bracelet, and then it was just that moment kinda ended, like, we talked for, like, probably 30 seconds, and then it was over, and then the next morning, I woke up and Emily was like, "Oh my god," and we looked on her story, and she posted my, friendship bracelet, and with Taylor Swift lyrics, and I was like, "That was so sweet." So, I mean, those were experiences. I know that some of our friends got amazing experiences, like AJ got to meet Tom. I know Lexi got to meet Tom. A few people got to interact with other stars, but like seriously, I think everyone kind of walked away at least having like some sort of
Some
memory to take away from it. So we're so grateful for even getting to experience that. And just I mean, it was so cool to be in the world of Panem. The party was Hunger
It
Games
was
themed.
themed
It was
really cool.
cool.
Yeah, they had a couple of Hunger Games themed drinks, the decor, they had flags hanging up. They had
Yes.
a really cool Panem symbol carpet on the ground. I loved they had a version of the big 10th annual Hunger Games TV with the smaller TVs on the side that we took
Mhm.
pictures in front of. That was super fun. A big like songbirds and snakes with the bird and snake logo backdrop.
So cool. And then, yeah, after that, we flew to North Carolina. We got to go see some of the original locations for the first movie where District 12 was. We got to see the scene. We got to see the 74th Arena, Pita's Bakery. It was really, really cool. Getting to experience
Mhm.
that with friends. Emily was all over the world. I was all over the country. Like just getting to experience Hunger Games. I think again, the sweetest part was just experiencing it with fans and getting to experience this now with y'all. So I feel like this is the part where we're going to talk about the movie, but seriously, thank you so much for even giving us the opportunity to get these experiences and to be together and to get Tribute Talk together. Like, we're so grateful for your viewership and for
Mhm.
listening to us.
The most important thing to me is friendship and community and the people that we've met through doing this podcast. When I saw the movie, the first thing I would think about is, "Oh, what's this person gonna think about this? And what's that
Yes.
person gonna think about this?" I'm thinking about my friends and all of the conversations that we've had leading up to this movie, and I did go on a bit of a worldwide tour, for this for a few weeks, but my favorite part was absolutely North Carolina and our Tribute Talk group, and looking forward to that Tribute Talk live that we did, and friendship and community is the most important thing for me in this fandom, and I'm grateful for the other experiences that we had, but nothing compares to the memories that you make with genuine people and connections that you've made. So, friends who are in North Carolina, but like everyone else as
Yeah.
well.
Like, I just think from this point on, as we talk about this, like, I'm feeling that, like, this episode is different than other episodes that we've ever had because we're entering this new era. And as we're talking about our friends and our community, like, if you want to be on an episode or if you have a topic that you want to talk about, like, we're more than open and more than willing. We want to get people on here and share our platform with y'all. So, I mean, if
Mhm.
you have like a ballad story or you want to talk, we can do another episode of our midnight movie premieres or whatever it is. Like, it's so exciting to see people cosplaying and interacting with us and talking about the excitement that they felt going into the theaters, because I think right now on TikTok we're kind of experiencing, like, my For You page, I know it's usually Hunger Games. It's not always all Hunger Games, but right now it's like everyone is just posting about enjoying this movie and having such a fun time. I feel like it's feeling like it's 2012 all over again. So I'm so grateful to get to experience this with like friends like Rachel and Marilyn and Isaac and
Mhm.
everyone, it's just so great. And so shout out
Yeah.
to y'all, but
I feel
so
like
cool.
this new era that we're in now, also a little bit of the stress is gone of
Mhm.
ballad and like, okay, we got to do ballad content and we got to get these things out before the movie comes out, you know. And
Yes.
now we're not wondering anymore. We're not necessarily hyper analyzing what we think may or may not happen. And now it's just chill.
I know. Now it's like we know we liked it, so it's like now we can talk about whatever we want to talk about,
Did
which
we like it? Should we talk about the
let's
movie?
should we talk about the movie? I mean, I feel like now it's honesty hour. We were kind of like sweet and loving and we love the movie, but first initial reactions, I love it now, but initial reaction, I didn't know what I thought about it and I didn't know if I actually liked it the first time I saw it.
I feel like I have to start with Berlin, right? So I
Yes.
saw it first of everyone on the 5th of November, which was very early. And
You're like, I'm not ready to see it. I'm not ready.
oh yeah, I was really debating if I was even gonna watch it because
Mhm.
I wouldn't get to see it with Holly for the first time, which I had this
Mm.
idea in my mind that I would see it with you, regardless of anybody else, for the first time because you know we have this podcast, we've talked about it so much, but because I was going to the filming locations right afterward, and because I was with a group of people who was going to see the movie and would want to talk about it, you know, I just decided that I needed to see it. And I'm happy that I did
Mhm.
because it's definitely been a roller coaster of emotions with like what I think about the movie, and I'm glad that I
Yes.
started early because I'm in a good place now, but the first time I saw the film, I was not happy. Really
Yes.
not happy, to be honest. I really liked the beginning of the movie. I was feeling it, and then it kind of just was going downhill as I was watching it. After the movie, I was pretty upset, to be honest. And all I wanted to do was call all of my Hunger Games friends and
Aw.
cry because it was just, you know, I don't know if I've been able to pinpoint exactly. There was a lot riding on the movie. I think there was a lot of anticipation, and maybe that had a lot to do with it. It wasn't exactly what I expected. I expected there to be some new scenes. We'd seen a lot of the movie going into it. I think there weren't a lot of new scenes from the promotion, so I think that was part of it. I didn't hate it. I probably would put it like at a C, like
Mhm.
70% or something like that. But I think I did have really high expectations. I fully thought that this was going to be, without a doubt, not a doubt in my mind, that this would be
Mhm.
my favorite Hunger Games movie. And so when I left the theater and I was like, I think it's probably last, that was just a huge mental transition for me. Yeah. Talk about the first time that you saw it. So I'm making myself sad.
I felt like I was in the same boat, and so Emily was so sweet and came to me way before she even made the decision to go to Germany, kind of, like, you were like, well, you knew you were going, but you were like, "I don't know if I wanna see it without you," like, you were so sweet about it, but you made the decision, and my only thing was you can't say a word to me. Like, I don't want to know anything. Like, I don't even want to know if you liked it because I knew in my head, I knew you would like it. And so I had no question of it. Like, I was shocked that you didn't like it. And I was shocked that I didn't like it at first. But I kind of went into it having this idea that Emily loved it. So I'm going to love it. And I didn't know that you didn't like it. And so,
Yeah, that was tough. Well, we had had a conversation and everyone had just said, okay, well, just say if you like it, obviously, because you're going to
mhm,
love it. And then so I felt like I couldn't even say, oh my gosh, it was so good. So I just didn't
mhm.
say anything. And I was like, I hope no one is taking the fact that I didn't even say it was good as
No,
news that it was bad.
I genuinely thought that you just like didn't want to spoil anything. And so I was like, okay.
That's what I kept saying.
So so I went in, saw it in LA was the first time that I saw it. And so it was all this hype. And I remember I was kind of like done standing around waiting for autographs. I was like, I'm ready to see this movie. I'm ready to see this movie. And I was the same way as Emily. Like, I thought that this would probably be my favorite of all of the movies. I thought that I would really, really love it. And I went in and I saw it and I felt like I think I went in with too high of expectations and I had an idea of what it was going to be and it was not what it was. So I shouldn't have gone in expecting anything. But as soon as the credits rolled, I felt like what just happened? I felt like everything it felt like the first time I read Ballad, it felt like everything fell flat.
Hmm.
And I feel like I just felt deflated. And so I turned to you and I didn't want to say that I didn't like it because I was like worried about that. And I was worried because
Well,
like,
you didn't know how I felt either.
yeah. And like, I mean, I was sitting besides Ronnie, I was sitting beside you, and then like all our friends were there. And I was like, it was so much to take in. And then we had to go to the after party. So I was like, I don't know. So I was like freaking out. But I just felt deflated the first time I saw it. And I just felt like, I think the major thing was there's so many chapter endings. Like it ends in suspense. Like Sejanus's death is a big moment. The reaping is a big moment. Yeah, like there's these big moments, and I just felt like we kind of just zoomed through the movie, and that's why I felt deflated. But then we didn't really talk about it much. I feel like we kind of
We
kept
didn't
our
talk about it
emotions to
much.
ourselves.
I had
I
already
don't know.
talked about it a lot, to be fair. I had talked about it with the group that had been at the Berlin premiere, and we had talked about all of the things that we didn't like and a lot of the things we did like. So I had kind of been talked out. But yeah, I didn't really get a lot of people's reactions after seeing it in LA. We
Mhm.
didn't discuss it very much.
Which I think is why everyone was kind of in disbelief. I think the second time for me, the third time for
Hmm.
you was like 3 or 4 days later from that Monday to that Thursday in North Carolina. And we walked away and like I walked away and I was like, I like that more actually. And
Mm.
then
And I liked it more the second time too when I saw it in LA. When you saw it for the first time, maybe went from like a 70 to a 75. We were going up. I think for me it was better watching it the second time because I knew what to expect going into it and I didn't have to be so stressed or worried about it. Thursday night on the 16th in North Carolina, I was sitting next to Chase
mhm.
and we get to the end and he looked over at me and was like, that was terrible. He hated it. And
Yes.
he was like 5 out of 10. Like that's where he was. And so that definitely brought me back to that place of thinking all those feelings when I saw it the first time. And I was really disappointed. It just brought me back to that um headspace. And I was like, yep, I agree. Like it was so bad. But there is hope.
But I should also
This
say
is a
that
good story.
AJ was so positive the whole time. We have to give
Oh
AJ
yeah,
credit.
AJ was so positive.
AJ's like,
Like
give
as
it a minute.
AJ is, the Hunger
Yes.
Games collector, always the good vibes.
So positive.
I think
But
our group was split, tribute talk.
mhm,
Half of us, five of us did not like it, and the other half really enjoyed it, like a B plus
yeah.
range. So we were definitely very split. But
Mhm.
we decided to see it last minute on Friday night at like 10:30
10:30.
p.m. Regal RPX.
Mhm.
and we were sitting in the third row, reclining chairs, so we were just, like, looking up at the movie, and we were just, like, in it. We were in the
We're
movie.
in the movie.
We could feel everything. Highly recommend Regal RPX. So far, that's the best format that I've seen it in. You felt everything. The sound was really great. That you could feel the quaking in the chairs.
Yes.
And for me, a miracle happened in that theater that night. And I went from like, well, see, I was already at like a 75%. Like it wasn't terrible, but I went up to like 85. That's like where I'm sitting now, a solid B. We saw it in Regal RPX on Saturday morning as well. So back to back in the really good format was good. I think by that point, I had seen the movie so many times. I had sat with a lot of the changes. I had pinpointed more what worked for me and what didn't work for me. And seeing it in a good format helped
Mhm.
a lot as well. Because when you see it in these premiere theaters, like it's so cool that we got to see it that way. But it's
Mhm.
definitely, in my opinion, not the best way to see a movie for the first time with
Mm-mm.
this big open space. It doesn't feel like cozy with the movie. You don't feel like in it as much as seeing it in a good format in a real theater.
I don't know what it was about that RPX that kind of changed my life, but every
Same.
single time every single time we would come out, like, because we saw it, like, 3 times together in North Carolina, every single time, everyone would come out so happy, picking out, like, little moments that they were laughing, like, and that was what I wanted. I wanted a movie that I could go to with people who have read the books, who love the books, and I wanted to, like, have these inside jokes and these moments and laugh together and really enjoy it and come out positive, and that's what ended up happening, and I think you can't go into it like, I think what the pattern we've noticed is that people who haven't read the book go in and instantly love it, for the most part. This is an assumption, but instantly love it, versus book readers go in, you have to see it multiple times, and we said this on Tribute
Mm.
Talk, but it's not a marketing tactic, we're not getting paid to say this, but, like, go in with no expectations and go in and just give yourself multiple times to like understand why they did things. Because now I get why it seemed that way and why it felt deflated. Moments like Sejanus's death that I'll talk about was a very short scene in the book, so it's a very short scene in the movie. And I wanted there to be more impact and there wasn't, but that was kind of how it was written. So I can't get angry about that.
I'm
I've
gonna
come to
get
love
angry
it.
about that.
We'll
There.
talk. We'll talk. So I guess I should give my rating. I give it like a 90 to I give it like a 93 or a 94%. I think
Mm,
it's up
okay.
there with Catching Fire. I think it's gonna depend on my mood and the day of which one I want to watch, but I think it's up there with Catching Fire and The Hunger Games for my favorite movies. So,
I'm still sitting at an 85. I think that's a good score. We haven't really talked about Rotten Tomatoes, but the critic score right now is sitting at 65 and the audience score is at 90. So it's a really wide range. And I think it explains kind of what I'm feeling because I personally do tend to score movies, rate movies similar to whatever the critic score is. So it makes
mhm.
sense that I'm somewhere in between. But after watching it so many times, I'm closer to the audience score. So yeah, I'm sitting at 85. I wouldn't necessarily put it last in the movies. I think my I hate to say this least favorite Hunger Games movie, but my least favorite one, even though I love them all, is Mockingjay Part 2. And so I'd probably put it right at the bottom with Mockingjay Part 2, maybe higher, maybe at the bottom. I'm not exactly sure yet, but I do like Catching Fire, The Hunger Games, and Mockingjay Part 1 better
Mm.
than Ballad.
Wow, okay. I'm kinda shocked. Like, how do you feel now that you know that you like the movie, but know that it's not your favorite because you were positive it was your favorite or going to be your
Disappointed
favorite? Yeah.
still. I still
Mhm.
feel disappointed. Um, but I will say I reserve final judgment until it's on streaming and I can have a moment at home where I just want to put on a movie and like
Mhm.
maybe I'll gravitate towards Ballad and putting that on more than Catching Fire or some of the other movies. So I don't know, but right now I do think it's near the bottom, just in terms of like cinema.
Yeah, I mean,
I
Catching
don't know. It's
Fire
it's
is
hard to
more of a
say.
cinematic. I feel like we can have this discussion where we compare Ballad to other movies. I think it's interesting. I forget who said this, but somebody said Francis's creative endeavor and like purpose as a filmmaker has like that's grown and that's changed and that's been influenced. So the way that he's going to be making movies is different from the way that he's going to be making movies 10 years ago. So I think he knew I don't think he took as many risks. I feel like he could have taken a few more
Hmm.
risks to make
That's a
it.
good point. One thing I will say in terms of like rewatch value for this movie, I think it does have a lot. So I might find myself gravitating towards watching Ballad more because it's a singular story.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
do really enjoy that about it and why I was very excited for it as a movie because I do think a lot of people can go into this movie even if you haven't watched the other Hunger Games movies. You could just watch this movie and get the story and fully enjoy it, which I think is
Mhm.
a really cool, special thing about this film.
And I think another thing is that as people audiences are learning about the movie, because I've had a lot of experiences recently where like I was at the mall buying like a Hunger Games calendar, and this woman checking out the calendar said, "Oh, I love these movies." Like, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I just came back from seeing the new one." They're like, "Oh, what new one?" And I explained to them, but no one's upset that like they're not saying like, "Oh, it's a money grab that they're going for this movie," or we don't need another Hunger Games movie. Like people are like, "Oh, there's another Hunger Games movie," and then it sparks a conversation. And what I really love is that like anyone can see this movie. You don't have to remember it, but people are rewatching the movies and people are excited to be seeing like a standalone Hunger Games. So I think that that's really good for Lionsgate at least.
Okay, so I'm tired of talking about negative stuff. We both we
We
both
love the
really
movie. I
like this
ranked it.
movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gone to see it so many times, enjoyed watching it every time, and I'm gonna go see it more times. So
Yeah.
this is a good movie. There's a ton of parts that we love, so we need to talk about some scenes that are our absolute favorites.
I love the singing. Love every single singing time. Oh, I am so happy with it. It wasn't what I was expecting it to be. I am disappointed by my favorite song, The Ballad of Lucy Gray. That's okay. But now I'm obsessed with Pure as the Driven Snow, Nothing You Can Take From Me. Like these songs, I'm just like the District 12 boot stomp. I'm like, yes, like go
Oh,
off.
so good. My favorites are Nothing You Can Take From Me and The Old There Before, which The
Mm,
Old There Before was a favorite of mine just reading the book and like seeing fan interpretations. But I was very shocked by Nothing You Can Take From Me because it's the Reaping song. Always felt a little weird to me. I could
mhm.
never really imagine how it should be in the movie, even with the fan versions of the song. And Rachel just like knocked it out of the park. And I
So
mean,
good.
Dave Cobb, who did the music, like amazing, stunning, wonderful. I love the interpretation they did for it. It's so good in the Hob. I'm obsessed with it. It's so good.
It's just my favorite scene, like if I have like a favorite moment to pick from the entire movie, is because I'm a Snowbeard fan. I'm toxic.
I love them too. I love them.
But I love the scene where she's performing in the Hob and she first notices Snow is there in District 12, and you can see the emotions on Rachel's face. Like it's just so cute. Oh,
It's so
so
good.
cute.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
so good. She does that little like thinking you're in control,
yeah,
you
it's so
know?
good.
And
Oh.
it's so good.
It's so good.
I could watch that over and over and over and over.
And then I feel like the other biggest part that I feel like you're going to talk about a lot is people are walking away with the humor of the movie and our king, Lucky Flickerman. Like, we are just all our friends, our notes are just like ill dill or tuberculosis on legs or like the reservation scene or like, oh, not candy. Like, all of these lines are just so funny.
So good. It's so quotable. I just love that we have an
Mhm.
expanded universe of quotes that we can say out loud in different situations. It's
It's like,
great.
that is mahogany. It's like, it
It's
created the
that is
new that is
mahogany, but,
mahogany.
like, throughout the entire movie. It's
Mhm.
fantastic. He's, like, such a standout for me. If I only had to pick, like, 3 people, he would definitely be one of them.
Okay, this is not a favorite scene, but this is my final favorite note, and I've talked about this with everyone I've been to see it, is that the casting is the best part of this film. Everyone is perfectly
Absolutely.
cast. Everyone is perfect as every part.
The cast and the music.
Mhm.
So good. My favorite scene, for sure, was Reaper and the
Mm,
flag, putting all of the tributes who had died together, putting the flag over them, looking right in the camera and being like, "Are you gonna punish me now?" And the
mm,
music just swelling in that scene, so good, and then the cut to Dr. Gall was just chills. I absolutely
yeah.
loved that sequence. It reminded me so much of Rue's death in The Hunger Games. There were
Mhm.
a lot of things I feel like that reminded me of the first movie, which was surprising to me because I thought it would feel more like Catching Fire, but to me it feels more like the first movie, which Francis didn't even direct.
Which is awesome. I think we're going
Yeah, I
back
think
to
it's
that
super cool
nostalgia
because it
piece.
it feels like it ties it all together in a
Mhm.
really cool way. The bombing, I also really,
Mhm.
really liked.
The first time I saw it, though, it kinda gave me, like, cheese vibes, but,
It
like,
did for me too, for some reason.
maybe because we were so
The
close.
slow-mo, like, the way that she's kind of, like, looking down is like
Yeah.
I don't know, and,
Yeah,
but every other time that I've watched it, like, the
I've
second
enjoyed
time
it.
to now, I really liked it.
Yeah.
So, I
So
don't
I
know, it's
don't know
just
what it
a movie you
is.
gotta watch it multiple times. I don't know why.
Go get your tickets, folks. We're just the brand ambassadors. Go get your tickets. We're not getting paid for this, but go get your tickets because we are.
I also love the Old There Before. I was so looking forward to that song in the movie. I didn't really know how they were gonna do it because it is, a little weird. It's a little cheesy. A lot of Lucy Gray's moments feel like that in the book, but they
Mhm,
really knocked it out of the park. Rachel knocked it out of the park. The song is so good, and I really felt the emotion there. She was feeling like she was gonna die, like this was gonna be it
mhm.
for her. And the lyrics match the moment so perfectly. She sings it so well. And I liked the snakes. I thought it was just a really powerful moment.
That part is different from the book, but I feel like we're happy that it's different from the book and that they made these changes because overall they make sense. And so as a book reader and like a book fan, I'm really proud of them and really excited to say that like the changes they made were good changes and like I see why they made them and I support that in the narrative of the story.
Mhm. I
Um
definitely think the changes that they made when they made changes were good, but the omissions that they made were not as
can we
good.
talk about
But
can we
should we
talk
keep
about
talking about scenes we like though? I don't know if we should go into the like negative yet.
okay. Okay, you stay positive. Okay,
Um,
no, one thing that I really like when based off of what you said about it being very similar to the Hunger Games, is the fact that it feels like a Hunger Games movie. This is like I sound like Harry Styles here, like when he says like it feels like a movie, but like it like you said, it feels like a Hunger Games movie and it's pulling these similar emotions, like similar emotions from Rue's death, etc. But they're so different. Like you can't compare and say, oh, they're just copy and pasting the events that unfolded just to get a rise out of our
mm,
emotions. I
I
think
I disagree with that a little bit though, to be
oh,
honest. Like
okay.
I think one of the things when I left the theater the first time and the Reaper scene was absolutely my favorite scene, but
Mhm.
then it reminded me so much of Rue's death scene that I was like, I was pretty bummed that my favorite scene was one that was so similar i- to the first movie scene, Rue's death, which
Are you only saying that because of the dramatic score? Like, what about it?
he looks at the camera and like she also looks up and like does the salute. It feels so, the beats feel so similar to that
Mm,
scene that it does feel a little copy and paste to me. Not that it isn't a fantastic scene, it's
mhm.
just I wish my favorite scene wasn't one that reminded me so much of another scene in another movie. I wish it was more its
Yeah.
own thing.
But I think for me, it's different in a sense, just because there aren't these big theatrical moments. And this is the first time that somebody's looking at the camera and kind of saying F you and like going after the Capitol in the games. And so
It
I feel
is the
like it's
first time, but we've also seen it before
it's
as an
like I think
audience.
I've
And
seen
even like
this film before.
putting the tributes in the one spot, like he puts her hands over like this. It felt so similar to
Mm.
Rue. And then it's also District 11. He did such a fantastic job.
Maybe what's wrong with it is the fact that they end Reaper's story so soon after. Because in the book, Reaper is our final 2 with Lucy Gray.
Mm,
It's not
yeah, yeah,
Coral.
he's the final one. This is his scene. Okay, he's done his scene. Now he's done.
Maybe it would have been different if they had played more to that, like, running him to exhaustion and, like, him not eating and refusing to, like, even drink or eat or be a part of these games. I think I understand where they're going with this big theatrical ending with the snakes, but again, that was like a little bit of a change that I had a hard time with because I would have liked to see Reaper be in that finale. But I know AJ
Yeah.
was so happy.
I feel like they changed the character of Reaper, and I feel like
Mhm,
they changed several characters, to be honest. Coral, I think, for the better, like a
mhm.
really cool change, like delving into that character more. But yeah, Reaper kind of changing his attitude. He was a little bit scarier in the book. I wish they had kept that line in, I'm sorry, I have to kill you all tomorrow.
He kind of became like the figure, like, why was he never attacked by our initial career pack? Like, he's kind of just chilling out. And
I
so
think he
that
was like
kind of,
he's very intimidating still.
mhm.
He is much bigger than all the other
I
tributes.
know, but there's like 4 of them. So that was like another part I had with the film. Like, I wish they would have kind of made him scarier, like you said. So then there was like a point to like why he was able to just like chill out and no one
He
really.
seemed very much like Thresh, intimidating character, but he also like has this moment of like compassion, and he also does want to look out for the other District 11 small child tribute.
Mhm.
It's a big parallel to me.
Which is something else we can talk about, if we're talking about him looking out for Dill, the bombing and that bombing scene, because in the book, it's kind of there's that undertone of did Dr. Gall do it versus in the movie, they outright say that the rebels did it.
In the book, it seems so clear that the rebels did it, but they absolutely did not do it.
Mhm,
It was definitely Dr. Gall from the way that I read it. But in the movie, it seems pretty clear that it was rebels. So I don't know, but there's that line that Reaper has where he is pretty insistent, Dill, you need to stay close to me. Because I mean, maybe Reaper was part of some rebel group. I can see that he killed a peacekeeper back in District 11. Maybe he was part of something. Maybe he even knew that there was going to be a bombing, didn't know he was going to be a tribute, but knew something was going to happen in that moment. Other scenes, any other big scenes that we absolutely loved?
one scene that is becoming my new favorite is the Old There Before, where she is singing the finale with the snakes. I feel like I saw somebody post that on their story, just like seeing that scene and like being hit by that emotion. And I never connected with that scene. Like you said in the book, it was really difficult for me. But I think I am now understanding that scene. And so it's becoming more powerful to me. So I can see that becoming like a favorite as well.
I just love that emotion that she has in that scene. It feels very clear that she thinks that she's going to die and this is her final moment. So she's going to go out singing. She's going to go
Mhm.
out being herself.
We talked a little bit about Mackenzie slash Coral changing. And at the end, we kind of get that Cato moment where it's like,
Hmm.
she makes the comment
I can't have killed them all for nothing.
I think that was a really good scene because we're again tying it in with the Hunger Games. So favorite.
If we want to talk about any scenes from part 3, I loved the first hanging with Lil. I thought that was so
Yes.
powerful. The actress
Oh,
there, I'm sorry I don't know her name, but she was fantastic. I felt all the emotions in that scene. It was tragic. It was really, really good.
we also haven't talked about how they split the movie into 3 parts. I remember that was my first reaction was turning to you, and I was like, "This is awesome," when it starts out
Yes.
with the
Which
mentor.
the very first time I saw the movie, I was on this high at the beginning. I loved the opening. I loved the flashback to the dark
Mhm.
days. And then, we open on a shot of snow on his bed, then taking a shower.
Okay.
Like it was great. We got part 1, The Mentor, and I loved it at first. Then, because of my overall thoughts of the movie and like the pacing issues and the way I felt like it was very choppy and just flying by, I didn't like that part 1, part 2, part 3 thing by the end. I think it made the movie feel even choppier than it already
Really?
was. Hmm.
I think that's probably my favorite thing that they've done with the movie to make it similar to the book. Otherwise, I think it
And
would have
but
just felt like
why? Like how do you feel like it adds anything to the movie other than like it's a cute nod? Is it just
I,
that?
I think it's more powerful in a sense because it relates back to like traditional like playwright and the whole point like of the books. I mean, it
Like
is
act
like
1,
the
act
cute
2,
nod.
act 3?
I think it's more accurate, and also the another reason why I like it is because we didn't get those big endings. Those are kind of like our those big moments. Like Arachne's death, I feel like it was kind of like it happened, it's over. Same with Sejanus' death. It happened, it's over. I think those chapter endings or those part endings in the movie give only movie watchers a little glimpse into that like chapter ending feel
That
because they're
bookness.
yeah. So that's what I like about it.
I would kind of counter that to say that
Ah!
no,
Emily's
I
like,
mean, I don't
no.
I don't disagree with what you said, but I
Mhm.
think it opened the movie up to even more criticism
That's
because
fair.
now people can very clearly say, I didn't like part 3. Part 3 wasn't good. Like that moment when part 3, the peacekeeper comes up to the end.
One thing I can tell with audiences, you can get the vibe of your theater, you get a vibe check is when it goes to part 1, people are excited. When it goes to part 2, I think people are like, "Oh, is it 1 or 2 parts?" And then you get to part 3 and it flashes that part 3 and you can feel a little bit of exhaustion from the audience.
Yes,
That's
you can. And I don't like it.
that's the one thing. That's the one thing that I can see from you, but I'm like, "Shut up and enjoy it because I enjoy." That's what I say to the people in the theater with me. I enjoy it, so you better enjoy
It
it.
is like a fun little thing, but to
Yeah.
me, I feel from like a cinema perspective, like
Ah!
it only takes away. But it is fun as a book reader to be like, oh, they
Yeah.
put part 1, part 2, part 3 in there, but unnecessary
So,
in my opinion.
how could we improve the movie? What are places that you could see it being improved?
So many things.
Okay. Okay,
Um,
get in there.
I think it mostly boils down to like 3 things for me though. The movie is too short to begin with. I think I'm very sad that the movie is 2 hours and 37 minutes because I think where it really suffered was just omissions of scenes that would have made the payoff for later scenes more emotional, which is what I was missing in the film. So we're adding that part 1, part 2, part 3. We're adding in all these things to make readers happy. It just seems
Mhm.
like the movie doesn't care as much about critics, it cares more about the fans. And if it cares more about the fans, why isn't the movie 3 hours? Why doesn't it just do justice to the fact that the book is so long and they had to cut so much? It just doesn't
Mhm.
fully go all the way for me. The critic score is 65 anyway. So why isn't the movie longer? That's like the first general thing. But because the movie's too short, I think it's missing 2 kind of key things. I don't really feel like the romance between Lucy Gray and Coriolanus sells enough don't think there's enough manipulation factor on
Mhm.
Rachel's or Lucy Gray's side. I think they could have reordered a couple of the scenes and maybe had one more scene between the two of them to really make it feel more genuine, but then also questioning at the same time. The romance feels even more unbelievable than like Twilight. It's like falling in love right away, but I feel like Twilight even sells it way more than these two in this movie. Not to say that it's the actor's fault. I think it's just not
It's
having
just the
enough
time.
scenes and kind of the order of the scenes. I am not very happy that they only kiss one time in the movie. If it's supposed to be this love story that you're not sure if you like believe or you
Mm.
don't, mm, yeah, Katniss and Peeta sell it way more than than these two, and
Hey.
this is supposed to be like a genuine romance. So that's tough for me. I think they should have had that kiss before they go into the arena. Like it would have made so much more sense if the hesitant kiss was earlier in the movie and maybe Choreo then asks, "Is this real?" Then we have the bombing. The bombing like sells it for him and then they kiss before going into the arena. I think that was missing there.
Yeah, that was weird that they didn't have that moment before going in. I think the one part about the love story that's hard for me to sell is the Billy Tope aspect because they didn't get to delve into Billy Tope. And so it's kind of like I can understand audiences being like, so what's the point of Billy Tope? We understand that he is the reason that she's raped, but at the same time, he comes back for her, he wants her. There's that scene in the Hob where he's grabbing her skirt, trying to like get her attention, and she's like, leave me alone. Does he love Mayfair? I think that's the part that I have a hard time with the love scenes. I do think that
Hmm.
it does make sense. They are rushed into having this romance because obviously it's such a short period of time and because she has no one else to rely on. So I can buy the love story being really fast paced because of that, because it is a life and death situation, but I can understand where you're coming from. Like, again, it would come down to this should have been a TV show.
Or a 3-hour movie. 20 minutes would have done a lot.
Here's my bone to pick with this movie is that stupid scene where Tom goes into the arena. Like, oh my, who would have thought going into the arena would be
Literally,
a good
I we
idea?
could have we could have traded that scene for
Yes.
literally anything that was cut and
Like
would have been
Mr. Chimney
great.
Sweep Man just like going
Oh
in
my
there
gosh,
like,
that's so
oh,
ridiculous.
so
They could have
stupid.
found a better way to do that. That's probably the worst scene in the movie.
I think it's the worst scene. Like that's where you take your bathroom break, folks. In case you haven't seen the movie for whatever reason, you're watching a spoiler-filled episode. When Tom goes into the arena, that's the bathroom
He's just
break.
exploring the different like hiding spots. Like, yeah, go
That
pee
was so
then. Perfect
stupid.
spot.
Yeah,
So dumb.
I
His
hated
little
that
chimney
scene.
sweep hat. I can't.
And he just got out of the hospital.
Yeah, like
Oh,
how did he get in there? Like, come
yes.
on. It's
Oh,
so
it's so
dumb.
stupid.
Someone on TV or something just be like, this has completely changed the layout of the arena.
Thanks,
Boom. That's
Emily.
all you needed.
Like that's all we needed. We
And
needed
then,
that.
okay, so I've got like the length of the movie, which like goes into the Lucy Gray and Coriolanus relationship. And then for me, the Sejanus and Coriolanus relationship. You watch the movie and you don't like Sejanus. Like, I can't
What? I
really.
love Sejanus.
I think
I love
in the
Sejanus.
first part and the second part, he's okay. But once we get to District 12, he's just annoying. It's all scenes between the two of them where they're just like yelling at each other. It
But they're
doesn't really,
brothers.
but it doesn't feel like that. Like when you're reading the book, Choreo in his mind
Mhm.
is really annoyed at Sejanus, but on the outside, it doesn't seem like that as much. They do seem like brothers, and like Sejanus is eating up everything that he's saying about how close they are, and you just don't get that. I mean, there's a scene where they're yelling at each other, and then back to back scenes where they're yelling at each other, and I'm like, why? It makes the hanging not pay off. It's not even about how short it is. It just I don't feel any emotion about him going. He's kind of an annoying character in Snow's way in that scene. And I'm like, bye. Like I'm done with your scenes where you're just yelling at each other. We get to the scene after that where Snow is crying and it doesn't feel genuine to me at all. I'm like, this guy was a thorn in your side this entire time. He did like nothing for you. You weren't even happy to see him on the train. Like that would have helped. That would have helped me a lot if he had been happy at all to see Sejanus. It was more just like, wow, you're here? Like this doesn't make any sense. Well, be careful out there. Like he could have just said, "Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to see you." You know, they
Oh my
could have
God.
hugged in like a brotherly
Stop.
way, you know, because
Emily, you're just
when
so
you
kind with your siblings. Like, here's the thing, like with me and my sibling, like I'll yell at her, she'll yell at me, like we'll get along, we'll be besties, and then it's fine. Like, I feel like that kind of represented their like brotherhood even more, was that like, yes, he's a thorn in his side. Like, what has he done for you? But he is morally correct. So like we shouldn't be siding with Snow. We should be siding with Sejanus, even though he's being not smart about it. That's how he is in the book.
it's
That's
not
how
that
he came off for
it's
me
not
in the
that I
book.
don't agree with
Yeah.
him.
I
Like,
know. No, I know.
let's
I
not
know.
get
I
that
know. I
wrong
know.
here.
But like, no, I know. But I'm just saying, like, for me, Sejanus, it's just like, even though he's annoying, like, we're supposed to be like, you're not handling this the right way. No one's handling any of this the right way. That's the whole point, I guess. I don't know. That's just how it comes off to me.
I
I
think
don't
for
know.
me, it was okay what was there. I just
Hmm.
needed another scene of them actually like
Liking each other.
enjoying being together. You know, maybe like
Almost
training
kissing.
together or something. Not even just
We almost did it. That's
anything. Give me
freaking
anything. And it's just not believable to me.
no. No. Oh, I thought it was
No.
really sweet. Oh, we lost a Sejanus lover out there. But Sejanus was
Yeah.
great. Sejanus was great.
He was good. Yeah. I
Yeah.
didn't feel their
You're not happy with
bond
their bond,
at
yeah.
all. We went from a scene where he records the Jabberjay and they're yelling at each other in that scene, and then 2 seconds later, there's barely anything in between, and they're at the Hob, and Sejanus is
Hmm.
completely screwed up again. Like they're yelling at each other. It,
Yeah.
I'm like, why wouldn't Snow want to get rid of him? Like he's doing nothing for him.
He's
Yeah.
trying to convince him. Like Sejanus is trying to convince Coriolanus, like, this is why you need to escape. This is why you need to get out of this world. And Coriolanus just refuses.
I go back to the book and
Oh,
we read that
yeah.
scene where they see each other for the first time. Like Corio sees him in District 12. He's so upset. And literally in the book, how many times has he been happier than when he saw Sejanus in that moment? And I
Hmm.
don't feel that in that scene. Like it's a nice scene. Like they're both
Yeah.
good in it, but I don't think it gives the same feeling of their relationship.
It doesn't give like emotional payoff. I think that's like a really good way of describing the Sejanus's death, is there is no emotional payoff, but there is shock value. And I think that's what they got instead of, it's what we wanted, but it's what they gave us instead. Because now we have audiences going to it. Like, I think some of my favorite showings have been going with Max, my fiance, because he hasn't read the book, and then Lauren, my sister, who hasn't read the book. And I think it's been fun to see their reactions. Like, they were like shocked, and like they had, Lauren was like, I was gonna cry during Sejanus's death scene. I was like, whoa,
Hmm.
like that's a statement. So I guess it's more like the shock value for people who haven't experienced it before. So again, like they took that from us, but gave it to somebody else, I
I think
guess.
they could have built up the emotion towards that scene where he reacts in the bunker room afterwards
Hmm.
better by not including Rachel in the hanging scene of
Okay.
Sejanus, because Sejanus and Lucy Gray don't really have a relationship. But in that scene, it keeps switching between Corio's face and Lucy Gray's face. And I feel like we should have stayed on Corio and his reaction, and he could have like slowly like built up that if the whole hanging would have happened behind him and it was just like one long shot, I think that would have been amazing. We could have seen more of Tom's acting, his reaction to how the whole hanging was playing out. And because it is
Mhm.
such a short scene, we could have just stayed on one shot of him. But instead, we keep going back to Lucy Gray, and I'm like, why do I care seeing her face?
It's just to go to that who's the third person.
Well,
Yeah.
but then Crystal from Jabberjays made a pretty good point a couple of days ago, saying that right before that scene, we have the scene where Lucy Gray is like hiding in the tunnel
Mhm.
and she's running away from District 12 and she's afraid to be out in public, can't let the mayor see her. But then she shows up to that hanging and she's like in the front, just like right there. And we keep looking at her face.
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's not
Yeah.
even the shortness of the hanging, it's just the character dynamics in the movie, I think, leading up to that moment just don't make that scene work. So
Yeah.
those are my three things.
So those are my 3 things.
The time of the movie, and then also I think they could have fixed the character development and relationships between Lucy Gray and Corio and Sejanus. And then I think the movie might have been an A for me.
They dominated a lot more time to nailing that head in about Dr. Gall's lesson and what the Hunger Games are for. And I think that was a little bit too much for me towards the end. It was like, we get it.
Had a
We're
lot
not
of
stupid.
moments in the movie where it was like, we get it, we're not stupid by
Mhm.
some of the dialogue.
I think that part I can bring up, which is the whole cheating line. You and I had a conversation about that. You brought
Hate
it
it.
up, and I was like, thank you for voicing this because that's how I felt when I first saw the movie. And that was one of the lines that I hated was I know that he cheats. And so immediately, the first time I saw this movie, and Dean Highbottom goes, "Oh, and if you're caught cheating, you will be punished." Blah blah
Well,
blah.
they'll just have no future at all.
Yeah,
Like, it's
it.
a little bit too much foreshadowing,
Yeah,
I think. Like, it's not even something that we're not gonna get. Like, obviously, if we get to the end of the games and someone is caught completely cheating, like, we don't have to be told that cheating is gonna
no.
be punished. He
How many
cheated,
times
so
has
that's
that
why
been
he's
drilled
punishing
in?
him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And then we get to like the base and the commander. And if you don't report rebel activity, well then you're as good as a rebel yourself. And
Like,
so then we get to that scene later.
stop.
It's like, well, I have to report this
Yes.
because I'm gonna be a rebel myself. It's obvious.
Yeah. I think that's what I have the hard time with is that one Tom scene and the length. I think it could have been a series. I agree with people now that it could have been a series. And I do love the hype of a good film, but and again, just that beating us over the head with this. Like we get it. We get it. We're not dumb. Any audience, like we get it. We can understand what's good and what's bad. That's what this movie is about. So I was a little frustrated with that. But again, Emily and I are going to see this movie, I think, today
A
anyway.
million
So
times. I'm
we
going to see
like
it
it.
tonight.
Yeah, I'm going to see it tonight. I like it, guys. Like clearly we're fans. But we have to be honest with people and like that's what this is about. Like we started this, we have said bad things about the Hunger Games catching fire. We've said things about the books, we've said things about the movies. Like there are always going to be parts that we liked and that we didn't like. And of course, when you're fitting in 500 something pages into a 2 hour and 37-minute movie, like we're not always going to be the happiest. So we love the movie,
Hmm.
don't get us wrong, but like these are just our parts that we're sharing with you that like we would fix as well.
Yeah. I feel like I got to talk about more things that I like now.
I know, we're like, guys, we love it, we love it.
Um, I mean, little things. I had a whole list of small moments that I absolutely loved. When Reaper is being interviewed and he does that jump. Oh my
Yes,
gosh, so
I
good. And that was
prepare myself.
improv. It was
Yes.
improv. Similar reaction to when I saw the first movie and the mutts come out, in the
Mm-hmm.
dark. And it's like, oh my gosh, that was really cool. He was such a good actor. I loved the little moment between Festus and Sejanus. The Sejanus, you made it to the reaping for once, and
Yes.
you made it to graduation. Festus, we're both shocked. Like
Yeah.
I loved that moment. That was so good. Can we talk about Festus? He
Festus
was
slayed.
amazing.
Festus was
Even
iconic.
I just kept watching him on rewatches in the background because he would be like, yes, like rooting when like someone got killed or just like little looks that he had. Festus, so good, so good. One of my
So
favorites.
good. He's so funny. And I just love, like, the little moments where, like, Lucky would comment, he'd be like, "I wonder if it's candy."
Not candy, down
Not
goes Wilby.
candy. Like, so fun.
How
Yeah.
about how many times we got enjoy the show in the movie?
And we get it
We
before the
won.
show even starts. If you go to AMC, they have enjoyed the
Enjoy
show,
the
so you
show.
so you get a little beforehand.
So good. I love see, this is a scene between Sejanus and Snow that I really loved. It might have been my favorite scene between the two of them in the lunchroom. I think that's a
Yes.
really cool moment, and it ends with Snow saying, "Yeah, I'm bad news." Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
We're just, like, fangirling over Tom now.
But I see, I wish their scene on the train had been more like that scene, and we had maybe gotten another scene between the two of them in
See,
part 3 that was
I
like
think
that.
right now I'm just feeding off of the crowd's energy and, like, the audience who hasn't read the book. So I think that that's why I'm, like, content with how they're doing it right now. But once that wears off, I'm gonna be a little disappointed.
Can we talk about the zoo scene when Lucy Gray and Snow are eating together? And he's like, "One time I ate a whole jar of paste just to
How
stop
was
the
it?
pain in my stomach. How was it?
Pasty.
Pasty?"
Pasty,
He
yes.
delivers that so well. Like
I
that
love
might be
their
my favorite chemistry moment between the two of them. It's good.
I love Rachel just in the zoo when she is talking to Venus and Pontus. I think that that part is really cool because it's very I feel like I've argued that this is a very well adapted book to movie adaptation, but I really, really love that in particular because it plays right directly off the page. I really love that. And I think we need to talk about Rachel's accent. Just that little accent really,
It's
really
so good.
created Lucy Gray. Other small moments. I'm trying to think of, like, when I go to the movie, I laugh every single time at Lucky. Favorite moment, how can I not talk about the forest end scene? Like, "Lucy Gray, are you trying to poison me? If something happened because if something's happened, we can talk about it."
It's visually different than how I imagined it, but I'm pretty sure I imagined it wrong. So it's good, but it's been hard for me to get used to a little bit.
I wonder if it is because it's so different. I wonder if we'll be able to hold on to our imagination and what we
I
pictured
hope
while reading
so
the book.
because I
Yeah.
love how I imagine certain
I
things.
loved how I imagined the end forest scene. It's a little too Twilight-esque for me.
It's something about the trees. I know
Yeah.
that's weird, but I imagined it like more claustrophobic,
Mhm.
more
And rainy,
more
like downpour,
trees, like more muddy.
more
Yeah.
chaotic.
Mhm.
I pictured like more happening,
Darker,
like the
more
snake
intense.
thing.
Like
Yeah,
I don't know, but it's all on Tom's face. Like
great job,
he
Tom.
really sells that scene. It's really good.
I also love Barb in the background, Honor did amazing as Barb, who got no lines, but like still I love Barb as Gore.
You know, I wish they would have had Sejanus at the lake. I
Yeah,
think
oh.
that would have been a good moment between the two of them, but the problem is it's between two scenes where they hate each other. So maybe it would have felt wrong. I
Mhm.
don't know. I just wish Sejanus had been around in more kind of like
I think I see what
happy
you mean.
moments.
Because he is around in happy moments. He goes to help him find Lucy Gray in the seam in the books, and he goes
Mhm.
on these like outings with them. And so I can see where you're coming from with that brotherhood issue we have.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tigers and Hunter. Oh my God.
She was so good.
She was amazing. She
She
is
should have been
so
in it
beautiful.
more. She was
I
so good.
know. I love that last line. You look like your father, Coriolanus. Oh, that
It's
looks
good.
it's so
Mhm.
good.
I love that she's the one that also first backs up Choreo saying like get her out,
Get
and
her
she's
out.
one
Get her out.
we don't need to talk about that scene. I didn't even notice the German accent at first. It was just kind of like a corny moment to me that everyone in the audience was like, "Get her
Get her
out,
out.
get
Get
her
her
out."
out.
But it's also in a German accent. You can hear
Get her
Philip
out.
German.
Get her out.
It's so funny. But I love that moment from Gull. The way her eyes are, like the way she's squinting in that scene, like I don't it's
Mm,
just so good. She's such a good actor. And then the get her out, all like
yeah.
defeated.
See, my favorite part is like that close-up shot of Dr. Gall when she's like, "It's time for my milk and crackers." I just love the up close look because she just looks crazy. You see both colors of her eyes, her lipstick is just kind of like, I don't know, kind of messy. Like you can see her like crack in her smile. Like it's so creepy. Viola is incredible.
Can we pour one out for Clemencia, though, and disappearing from the rest of the film?
Ashley deserved better. Come on.
I just wish, even if we didn't get the whole snake plot, which is fine, it has to be cut for time. They tend to cut out the more fantastical moments from the books. I wish we had had a moment at least where she maybe came back and just like looked really scared or
Mhm.
had some sort of line at all. I
Yeah.
just wish she hadn't been dropped entirely.
Say that you killed off her character or
Yeah,
something.
why not? People would have been mad about that, but I would have been fine with it.
Another
Just
okay,
like
this is
bring
like
her back in some aspects. Like she's completely gone.
yeah, like for me, it was a little bit frustrating because why would you put time and energy into that character, but have nothing come from it? Like, I understand that like the
I
story
guess
is
it's to
about
show
Dr.
that
Gall.
Dr. Gall is willing to do anything. I mean, she
I know,
has
but
that
like
line
we
that she's
I
willing
don't know.
to scare people with a little bit of spectacle, you know?
I might be the one person on earth who thinks this, but I think that they focused a little bit too much on Peter and Viola, and I think that took away, I'm gonna argue, from moments that we could have had Sejanus
I
and
agree.
Corio
Because
interacting.
also, as much as they're great actors and those characters are cool, those characters don't have arcs. They just kind of like are who they are throughout the movie.
They're to support Corio's arc.
Yeah, they're supporting characters.
And that's what they did
So
with big actors in the original movies. I mean, like we had Stanley Tucci, we had Elizabeth Banks, we had all these actors, like these big name actors, but they didn't take up more time than they needed to. And I think that's where
agreed. That is definitely a difference between the other movies and this. Even Lucky, I mean, I love how much he was in it, but if we were to keep the movie the same length, if we have to keep it at that 237, we should have sacrificed time on those other characters for what was missing.
because even then, the main cast that you have doing press are Rachel, Tom, Hunter, and Josh. So why are we not pouring more into those characters
Or making it 3 hours.
or making it
It's the
a
solution,
series? I don't
fixes
know.
it for everybody.
We should have
Yeah.
made this movie 7 parts.
I mean, that's the thing too. I don't think this movie would have been good split in two. I definitely don't think that was the answer. The second movie would have been panned
Mhm.
completely. I'm happy it's not two movies. That wouldn't have made
Yeah.
sense to me. But one longer movie, please.
Director's cut, please. I guess we can talk a little bit about y'all's thoughts because the weekend that Ballad came out, we posted like, what are your initial thoughts from Ballad? We had a lot of good, positive things. Like Shepherd Geek said, it was great fun. I love the casting, but some of the story omissions seemed odd. So again, talking about that, people said it was amazing. Laurach said absolutely loved every second of it. Loved the book. Loved the movie. I'm going again Sunday. Ooh, somebody said they were nervous before seeing it. They said that everyone else was saying positive things, but they were still nervous to see it. Anja Kwa said great movie. I feel like they captured everything that was essential. Also, full circle moment for me. Yeah, kind of felt like you
Okay.
said full circle. Nicole said loved it. Just kind of felt the first act was kind of rushed. Again, first act,
Hmm.
the breaking up the act.
What I will say about that, because I went into one of the screenings and I timed the part one, part two, part three, because I just wanted to know, it feels rushed or it doesn't feel rushed, but like, what is the actual comparison? Part one was 50 minutes, part two was 45 minutes, and part three was 51 minutes. I mean, give or take a minute, depending on when I looked at
Mhm.
my clock. But it's interesting because they changed where part two started. So part two, the prize, they actually started when the games were starting, whereas in the book, there's a little bit of time still before
Mhm.
the games start. So parts of part two ended up being in part one in the movie. So they really had to fit a lot into that first 50 minutes. So, like
Mhm.
that comment says, I can kind of understand where that's coming from. And part two ended up being my favorite in the movie, which maybe it's because they had the most time in part 2 to adapt. They had the shortest number of pages, but they still had 45 minutes on
Yeah.
the games part 2. So I feel like they really had a lot of time to flesh out the games. I mean, there still had to be changes and omissions, but they had a lot of room there in part 2.
I would say part 3 is my favorite. Part 2 is
And
probably
that's so wild to me because it's
yeah,
my least favorite by far.
beat them, said that it blew their mind. Honestly, same. The
Mind
second time
blown.
when I saw it
Yeah.
in RPX.
I mean, even when I didn't like it the first time, my mind is blown. So
Mhm.
different ways each time.
Ooh, Capital Host. Capital Host said 7 out of 10, better than the book, but still rough on the edges. I actually have heard a few people say that they liked it better than the book.
There's definitely people who always are gonna love movies more than books. So
Mhm.
I can understand that. Seeing it visually is really cool.
Katie said, I just can't believe it's real, and I saw it. Chase said, optimistically sad. And now look at Chase singing
Yeah,
it
that was
how many
after his
freaking
first
times?
time seeing it. But
Oh
he
my
was
god.
still optimistic about it getting better with multiple viewings, and it did.
Kayla said, can't decide if Ballad or Catching Fire is my favorite now. I feel like that's something that we should do is post a poll saying like what your favorite Hunger Games movie is and where
Hmm.
Ballad
I
ranks.
feel it's gonna be Catching Fire or Ballad is gonna be the top responses.
It's like I don't know if Ballad is my favorite just because like it's the new shiny toy right now. That's how I
Hmm.
feel. I need to give it some
You gotta
time to
let it
like
simmer, like
mm.
settle in.
Because I'm going to be on this ballad hype for a while.
Yeah.
So Kayla also said it was so good. It was rushed at the end, though. So part 3 feeling rush. I wonder if that's another thing that we could do a poll on. Which act felt rushed? Slash, what was the favorite act? I'm also really glad that we did our part 1, part 2, part 3 of the book series before we did
Yeah,
the
I'm
movie.
glad we did it because it is really fresh in my mind, but at the same time, I'm kinda sad we did it because it was really fresh in my mind, you
Yeah.
know? Like, it kind of is a double-edged sword.
Yellow Sub Louise said, thought it was near perfect, just brought down by some pacing and aesthetic choices. And then the Kylie Taylor said, disappointed, but still loved it. I don't think it truly showed the fullness of Snow's evilness and selfishness, which this brings me to a point that I have yet to bring
Mm,
up and has been talked about a lot, especially within the fandom itself, is people really wanted to see Snow stabbing Sejanus in the back a lot more, like
mhm.
seeing him become the adopted son of the Plinths, because that is just probably the most cold-hearted aspect of Snow, at least in Ballad from my
That
perspective.
hurt. That
Yeah.
hurt so bad at the end of the book. I think there's a lot with Sejanus that really hurt that
Mhm.
didn't come across in the movie at the hanging or the fact that he just completely disregards him and continues to use him even after her death.
It's disgusting. I feel like they could have really played up that part a lot more. They could have taken out that scene of him being the chimney sweep guy, and they could have put in a scene with him like apologizing to Sejanus's parents and saying like I'm so sorry for your loss, like something like that to just really drive in that Tom, although he is very beautiful and very attractive and an amazing guy, Snow is very not. So I think we needed that
Mhm.
reminder, which I knew was going to be a problem because there is a problem with hypersexualizing and hyper romanticizing serial killers and awful people. So
I love Tom.
no, it's okay. But we made him too
I love
attractive.
Snow. Ah, he's so cute.
We're not
Those
supposed to love
blonde
him.
curls, those blue eyes.
Are you team Buzzcut or are you team Curls?
Oh, never the buzz cut, never the buzz cut.
Never the
Maybe
Buzzcut,
that's
always
why
the
I didn't
Curls.
like part 3, you know, that's the truth.
Yes. But yeah, I mean, that do you have anything else to add? Those were kind of most of our comments that we got from people saying what their thoughts on Ballad, our thoughts on Ballad. I
Mhm.
feel like,
We'll
yeah.
definitely be talking about it more in future episodes. I'd love to do a favorite scenes episode
Yes.
for Ballad like we did for the other movies. Talking about the soundtrack would be
Oh,
really fun. We've
mm,
got that now, like we did for the other films, and then do some more episodes that are focused on the other movies and maybe not so much Ballad content in the
yeah.
coming months.
So stick with us as we enter this new era of Into the Arena and share with us your thoughts on the movie because, like, this is the biggest part. We've been waiting for this for years. So share your thoughts with us. We'll be posting more places on Instagram for you to share your thoughts. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc., you can comment and then check us out on YouTube. You can also watch the podcast as well if you're a listener. And we will see you next time. Bye.
I love the movie, I promise.
Love the movie. We're good
Yeah,
people.
85%.
Bye.